The Ornament vault shattered at 0300 hours, and Captain Venn knew immediately this wasn't another petty theft. The security feed showed a figure moving through the royal treasury like smoke through a cracked window, collecting ceremonial ornaments with surgical precision. Each piece represented a star system in the collective, each one a promise of unity forged over 3 centuries. The intruder took them all. Ven's hand moved to her sidearm, but the figure was already gone, leaving only empty pedestals and the faint smell of ozone. She pressed her calm. "All units, we have a breach. The Harmony Collection is gone." The royal palace erupted into controlled chaos. Guards sealed every exit, scanners swept every corridor, but Ven knew what the others hadn't realized yet. Whoever did this had been inside before. The vault's biometric locks showed no tampering, no override codes, no forced entry. Someone with authorization had simply walked in and taken humanity's most sacred symbols. The ornaments weren't just decorative, they powered the translation matrix that allowed the collective's 15 species to communicate without misunderstanding. Without them, the fragile piece would crumble within days. Queen Sareth arrived within minutes, her chitinous form towering over the human guards. Her people, the Koresh, had been humanity's first contact 200 years ago, and the first war had lasted 3 months before a human child had offered one of the Queen's warriors a flower. That flower became the first ornament. Now they were all gone. The Queen's compound eyes fixed on Ven. "Explain." "Unknown perpetrator. No forced entry. No witnesses. They took every piece." Ven pulled up the security footage. The figure wore no identifying marks, moved with purpose, and seemed to know exactly where each ornament was placed. Professional. Planned. Someone who knew the palace. The Queen's mandibles clicked softly. "Then we have a traitor." The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Ven had served the collective for 20 years, had earned her position through merit and blood, and the thought of betrayal within the royal guard made her stomach twist. But the evidence was clear. "I'll find them, Your Majesty." "You have 48 hours, the Queen said quietly. "After that, the collective convenes. Without the ornaments, without the translation matrix, we will not understand each other. Fear and suspicion will return. War will follow." Ven didn't waste time acknowledging the obvious. She pulled her team together. 3 humans, 2 Koresh, 1 Vexian, whose crystalline body could detect electromagnetic signatures invisible to organic eyes. They started with the security feeds, tracking the intruder's path backwards. The figure had entered through the East Wing service entrance at 0247 hours, moved directly to the vault, and exited through the same route at 0258 hours. 11 minutes. The entire heist took 11 minutes. "Run spectral analysis on the entrance footage," Ven ordered. Her Vexian teammate Chorus flickered with concentration. After a moment, faint traces of thermal residue appeared on the feed. The intruder had used a heat cloak, military grade. That narrowed the suspect pool considerably. But what made Ven's blood run cold was the gait analysis. The way the figure moved, the slight hesitation before turning corners, the preferred use of the left hand, it matched someone in the palace database. She ran the comparison 3 times to be sure. The results didn't change. Lieutenant Marcus Chen. Her own second in command. Chen had been on duty that night, stationed in the North Tower. His credentials would grant him vault access in emergencies. He'd served alongside Ven for 8 years, had saved her life twice, had been decorated for valor during the fringe skirmishes. She trusted him completely. The computer flagged his heat signature as a 90% match. Ven found him in the training hall, running combat drills with the night shift. He moved with the same efficient grace as the figure in the footage. When he saw her approach, his expression didn't change. "Captain. I need to see your duty log from last night." He pulled up his wrist terminal without hesitation. "North Tower, 2200 to 0600. "Standard patrol. Why?" Watched his face carefully. He studied it with the same analytical focus he brought to every tactical problem, then looked at her directly. "You think that's me?" "The gait analysis says it could be." "Could be is uncertainty." He didn't look offended, just focused. "What's the variance?" 8%. "But you're right to check. Who else matches this profile?" The question threw her. A guilty man would deflect, deny, attack. Chen was helping her investigate himself. "You're the only one flagged." "Then either I did it, or someone went to considerable trouble to make it look like I did." He gestured to the training hall. "Pull the security feeds from here. If I left the North Tower, it'll show gaps in my patrol pattern." Ven had her team verify his alibi while she continued analyzing the theft. Chen's patrol logs checked out. He'd been exactly where he was supposed to be. But the gate match was too close to ignore. Either he had an accomplice who moved exactly like him, or someone had studied him carefully enough to replicate his movements. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A maintenance worker reported finding ornament fragments in the recycling chute near the children's wing. Not the actual ornaments. Those would be worth billions on the black market. These were cheap replicas, the kind used in educational displays. Someone had been practicing. The children's wing housed families of diplomatic staff, including human children who attended the Palace Academy. Ven had always avoided that section. Too much noise, too much chaos, too many variables. But now she walked through it with purpose. Chorus at her side detecting trace elements. They found the practice studio in an unused classroom. Dozens of replica ornaments arranged in the exact configuration of the vault. Timing marks on the floor, heat cloak residue on the walls. Someone had rehearsed this theft repeatedly until they could execute it perfectly. But the most damning evidence was the child-sized handprint on the door frame. Ven stood very still, processing. A child. The theft had been committed by a child. The heat cloak would have been too large, making the gate appear adult-sized. The vault access could have been cloned from a parent's credentials. A child would know the palace layout intimately, would be invisible in security footage because guards automatically filtered them out as non-threats. Find which children had access to this room, she said quietly. Chorus identified 3 thermal signatures that appeared regularly. 2 belonged to diplomatic children from minor delegations. The third matched a pattern Ven recognized immediately. The same slight drag of the left foot, the same shoulder tilt, the child of one of her own guards. Private Sarah Lynn had a daughter, 9 years old, exceptionally bright, and currently marked absent from the Palace Academy for the past 3 days with reported illness. Ven found Lynn on duty at the Queen's private chambers, standing at attention with perfect discipline. "Private, I need to speak with your daughter." Lynn's face remained neutral, but her pupils dilated. "She's sick, ma'am. Home with my mother." "No, she isn't." Ven kept her voice level. "The thermal signature from the children's wing practice room matches hers. The timing of her absence matches the theft. I need you to bring her in, now, before this becomes something we can't control." For a long moment, Lynn said nothing. Then quietly, "She didn't mean harm." "Explain." "Emma's brilliant. Loves puzzles, codes, patterns. She's been studying the ornaments since she was 5, learning what each one represents. Last month, she told me she'd figured out how someone could steal them. I thought she was just theorizing." Lynn's voice cracked slightly. "I didn't think she'd actually do it." "Why would she?" "You'd have to ask her." Ven had Lynn escorted to a private interview room while she assembled the facts. A 9-year-old child had executed a perfect heist, stolen irreplaceable artifacts, and potentially doomed the collective to war. The logical response was immediate detention, interrogation, recovery of the ornaments, but something about this didn't fit. Children acted on impulse, emotion, desire. This theft had been methodical, purposeful, planned over months. She reviewed Emma's academy records. Perfect grades, exceptional problem-solving skills. Behavioral notes indicated she asked unusual questions, not disruptive, but probing. Why did the Koresh communicate through clicking? Why do humans need so many words? Why can't we all just understand each other? The translation matrix. The child had been thinking about the translation matrix. Ven found Emma in her apartment, sitting calmly at a desk surrounded by the stolen ornaments. Each one was arranged in a circle, glowing with soft bioluminescence. The child looked up when Ven entered, showing no fear. "I knew you'd figure it out. You're really good at your job." "Where are the ornaments, Emma?" "Right here." She gestured to the circle. "I haven't damaged them. I was just testing something." Ven approached slowly, scanning the room for threats. The ornaments were intact, undamaged, exactly as they should be. Testing what? Whether they really need to be in the vault? Emma stood, moving to the center of the circle. "Everyone says the ornaments power the translation matrix. That without them we can't talk to each other. But that's not exactly true, is it? The ornaments are symbols. They remind us why we choose to understand each other. The actual translation happens in the neural implants everyone gets when they join the collective. The ornaments just make us remember to try." Then stopped. The child was right. The technical specifications of the translation matrix had always been clear. The ornaments were ceremonial anchors, not functional components. But centuries of tradition had elevated them to sacred status. had made them seem essential. Without them, people believed communication would fail, and belief was powerful enough to make it true. So you stole them to prove a point? I stole them to show everyone we're stronger than we think. Emma touched one ornament gently. My mom's Koresh partner doesn't need these to talk to her. The Vexian engineers don't need them to collaborate with human scientists. We've been understanding each other fine for years. These are beautiful, and they matter, but we don't need them to choose peace. We just need to keep choosing it. The apartment door opened. Queen Sereth entered, her massive form filling the space. Lynn followed, restrained by 2 guards. Emma looked at the Queen without flinching, and Ven saw something shift in the child's expression. Not fear, but recognition of consequence. Your Majesty, Emma said simply, the Queen's compound eyes fixed on the child, unreadable. Ven's hand moved to her weapon, ready to protect Emma if necessary, though from what she wasn't certain. The silence stretched for 5 heartbeats. Then the Queen laughed. It was a sound Ven had never heard before, a deep, resonant clicking that started in the Queen's thorax and rippled outward. Emma's eyes widened, and then, incredibly, she laughed too, a bright, clear sound that seemed to dissolve the tension in the room like sugar in water. You are correct, small human, the Queen said, her voice carrying genuine amusement. We have been fools, clinging to symbols when the reality has been before us all along. Your Majesty, the child committed theft? The Queen lowered herself to Emma's eye level. She saw what we had forgotten. The ornaments represent our choice to understand each other, but they are not the choice itself. We are. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I just wanted everyone to see that we're already doing the hard part. We're already choosing peace every day. These, she gestured to the ornaments, they're just pretty reminders. Return them to the vault, child, but know that you have given the collective a greater gift than any ornament could provide. You have given us perspective, Ven asked, still struggling to process what was happening. The security breach, the deception, will be addressed, the Queen said firmly. As a lesson. She looked at Lynn, still standing between guards. Your daughter has your courage, Private, but she channels it differently. That is not weakness. That is evolution. Lynn's shoulders relaxed fractionally. Thank you, Your Majesty. Emma began carefully gathering the ornaments, handling each one with reverence despite her earlier demonstration. Ven watched, still processing. The child had committed a crime that could have sparked interstellar war, and instead of punishment, she was being thanked. Part of Ven rebelled against this. Regulations existed for reasons security protocols couldn't be dismissed because someone had good intentions. But another part, the part that had watched species learn to coexist through trial and error, recognized something profound in what had just happened. Captain Ven, the Queen said quietly. This child saw through our collective illusion because she was not yet bound by it. That is the gift of youth, the ability to question what we accept as immutable truth. We should encourage this, not punish it. Even when it involves breaking multiple laws? Especially then? The Queen straightened to her full height. Laws serve peace, not the other way around. When a child risks everything to prove we are stronger together than we believe, we must ask ourselves why she felt such a demonstration was necessary. Ven had no answer. She'd spent 20 years enforcing rules, maintaining order, preventing chaos. Emma had spent 9 years observing, questioning, and ultimately challenging the very foundations of what the collective claimed to value. Which of them truly served peace? The ornaments were returned to the vault within an hour. The Queen addressed the collective assembly, explaining what had happened with unusual candor. Some delegates were outraged, demanding punishment for the child and her mother. Others saw the event as the Queen did, a reminder that their unity was chosen daily, not guaranteed by artifacts. The debate raged for hours. In the end, the Queen made a decision that would reshape collective law. Emma would face no criminal charges, but would work with the collective's educators to develop new ways of teaching cultural understanding to children across all species. Lynn would receive a formal reprimand that carried no practical consequence. And the ornaments would remain in the vault, but with a new plaque explaining that their power came from what they represented, not from any magical property they possessed. Ven found Emma in the gardens 3 days later, sketching the ornaments from memory. The child looked up when Ven approached, wariness flickering across her face for the first time. I'm not here to arrest you, Ven said, sitting on the bench beside her. I'm here to understand. Understand what? Why you laughed when the Queen laughed. I was scared she'd be angry that I'd made everything worse, but then she laughed, and I realized she wasn't mad at me for taking the ornaments. She was happy I proved they didn't matter as much as we thought. They do matter, though. Emma showed Ven her sketch. The ornaments arranged in their vault configuration, but with threads of light connecting them to stick figures representing different species. They matter because they remind us we chose this. Every day we wake up and choose to understand each other instead of fighting. The ornaments don't make that happen. We do. It was simplistic but captured something essential. You risked a lot to prove that point. Mom's really mad at me for scaring her. Emma's expression turned solemn, but I had to. People were starting to say that without the ornaments, the collective would fall apart, that we only get along because of some magic crystals that make us understand each other. That's not true. We get along because we work at it. The ornaments just celebrate that work. So you stole them to prove we could survive without them? I stole them to prove we'd already been surviving without them, we just didn't realize it. Emma put down her pencil. Do you think I was wrong? Ven thought about the past 3 days. The panic, the fear, the accusations. But also the moments of clarity, of species working together to solve the crisis, of communication continuing even without the ceremonial symbols everyone claimed were essential. I think you were reckless. But not wrong. That's what Mom said. Your mother is wiser than I gave her credit for. Ven stood, preparing to leave, then paused. Emma, the Queen has asked that you present your findings to the Youth Council next month. Are you prepared for that? The child's eyes widened. Really? Your perspective is valuable. Uncomfortable, but valuable. Ven managed a slight smile. Just try not to steal any more irreplaceable artifacts while developing your presentation. I promise. Besides, I already proved my point. Walking back to the palace, Ven reflected on what had changed. The ornaments were back in the vault, the collective's routines had resumed, and surface-level everything appeared normal. But something fundamental had shifted. A child had looked at the Empire's most sacred symbols and seen them for what they truly were. Beautiful, meaningful, but ultimately just things. The real power had always been in the choice to understand, to communicate, to persist in peace despite every reason to give up. Chen met her at the security station reviewing overnight reports. Everything quiet? For now. Ven pulled up the vault feed, watching the ornaments glow softly in their pedestals. Did you know the child was planning this? But I saw her watching the guard rotations, mapping patrol patterns. I thought she was just curious. He glanced at Ven. Should I have reported it? Would you have reported any other child for being observant? Sometimes the most dangerous thing we can do is assume curiosity is a threat. The collective convened the following week, and the debate over the ornaments continued. Some delegates proposed enhanced security, arguing the theft proved the artifacts were vulnerable. Others suggested distributing them throughout collective space, reasoning that if they were symbolic rather than functional, they should be accessible to all. A few radical voices even proposed destroying them entirely, claiming they'd become a crutch that weakened genuine cultural exchange. The Queen listened to every argument, her expression unreadable. Finally, she rose to address the assembly. We will do none of these things. The ornaments will remain in the vault, protected as they have always been. But we will add a new tradition. Once per cycle, we will remove them from the vault and distribute them to the collective schools. Children of all species will study them, handle them, learn their histories, and then they will return them, understanding what Emmeline understood. These symbols matter, but we matter more. The motion passed with overwhelming support. Within months, the Ornament Education Program became one of the collective's most celebrated initiatives. Children across 15 worlds learned not just the history of each piece, but the deeper truth about what held their civilization together. Emma herself became a reluctant symbol, her image used in promotional materials despite her visible discomfort with the attention. Ven found her 6 months later in the same garden, now surrounded by children from 3 different species, explaining the differences between ceremonial artifacts and functional tools. The captain watched from a distance, noting how naturally Emma moved between languages, how the other children leaned in to hear her explanations. This was the real power of the collective, not the ornaments, not the treaties, but moments like this where understanding happened organically, where curiosity overcame fear. She has your gift for observation, the Queen said, appearing beside Ven with characteristic silence, and her mother's courage to act on what she sees. A dangerous combination. The most valuable ones usually are. The Queen's compound eyes followed Emma's movements. In 300 years of the collective, we have faced many threats: invasion, disease, economic collapse, political fracture. But we have never faced comfortable ignorance, the assumption that our peace is inevitable rather than chosen. That child forced us to confront our complacency. She gave us the greatest gift possible, She made us conscious of our own strength. Ven nodded slowly. She'd spent her career preventing threats, neutralizing dangers, maintaining order. Emma had created chaos to reveal truth. Both approaches serve the collective, just in different ways. What happens when she gets older? When this kind of thinking becomes policy rather than protest? Then we will have leaders who question rather than enforce, who challenge rather than accept. The Queen's mandibles clicked with what Ven had learned to recognize as satisfaction. The collective will evolve. Perhaps it already has. As the sun set over the palace gardens, casting long shadows across the grounds, where children played and learned and challenged each other's assumptions, Ven understood what had really been stolen. Not ornaments, not symbols, not ceremonial objects. Emma had stolen complacency. She'd taken the collective's comfortable certainty that peace was maintained by tradition and replaced it with the more demanding truth. Peace was maintained by daily choice, by active understanding, by the constant work of choosing unity over division. The ornaments would remain in their vault, beautiful and revered, but everyone who saw them now would remember the child who proved they were loved, not needed. And in that memory, the collective found something stronger than any artifact could provide. The knowledge that their peace was theirs to create, theirs to maintain, theirs to strengthen through conscious choice every single day. Emma looked up from her explanation, catching Ven's eye across the garden. She smiled, a small acknowledgement passing between them. The captain nodded back, a gesture of respect between equals who understood the same essential truth. Sometimes the greatest act of loyalty is knowing when to break the rules, and the deepest wisdom comes from those young enough to question why the rules exist at all.